The latest news, national issues, the political scene, and conversations with prominent personalities. All these firsthand at the forefront. Good morning. I am Attorney Karen Jimeno. Let's take a short recap on what the public is talking about these days. Vice President Sara Duterte's trip to Naga to visit former Vice President Leni Robredo made the headlines over the weekend. Attorney Barry Gutierrez, the spokesperson of VP Leni, stated that it was a personal visit that only lasted an hour. Tongues are wagging that a political realignment is brewing up. After the backlash that VP Sara underwent because of her demeanor during the 2025 OVP budget hearing, she may now be looking for new allies or something even deeper than what the public perceives. Joining us this morning, we have the former Cabinet Secretary of President Duterte and former PDP-Laban Secretary General, Attorney Melvin Matibag. Good morning, Attorney Melvin.
Hi, Attorney Karen. Good morning, and good morning to all your viewers. Thank you for inviting me here.
Let's start first. You were the former Cabinet Secretary of President Duterte. What was it like to have him as a boss?
Well, I was serving as before as a cabinet secretary with DOE as the president of Transco. But when I worked with him in the cabinet, he was really good. He was really for the people at that time, and he will guide us and tell us what to do exactly. And there are times that we are arguing, but the moment he speaks that this is our direction, everybody will stop and listen to him and do what he wishes to do.
And as Cabinet Secretary, did you finish your term?
Yes, I was appointed March and end my term June 30, the same time that the president ended his term.
And during that time, were you also able to interact with Vice President Sara?
No, there was no time that we were able to interact. But when I was the section of PDP, we were always trying to have a meeting with her, asking her for a meeting, especially during the time that the election is coming near. That was 2022, so that we can look for the perfect ticket or the administration who will push for the election. But to no avail, the meeting never happened. So
you never got to meet with her?
Wala talaga.
But you've had personal interactions with...
So, meron. There are times that we have personal interaction because I was also friend to the family, and there are occasions like weddings and birthdays that she were there. But wala namang mahabang discussion. We'll take photos, something like that.
What were your impressions of Vice President Sara back then as the presidential daughter?
Well, I see her as aloof to the president and aloof to the family and to those who are close to the president or serving the president. Medyo wala talagang relationship. I don't know what the reason why at that time, pero hindi talaga.
There were some rumors before that there was a rift between President Duterte and his daughter Sara. Are you aware if that was true?
I don't know kung there is a personal reason, but as to the governance administration, I don't think that Sara is participating with the president, except during the time that there was this occasion of when former Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez was replaced. I think everybody knows that Vice President Sara did an active role in ousting then Speaker Bebot Alvarez. Pero dun sa other naman terms of governance, wala naman siyang ginagawa, except that we've been hearing that Senator Bongo and Vice President Sara, hindi maganda yung parang dynamics sa relationship nila.
Are you close to that time, the Special Assistant to the President,
Yes.
Bongo?
Yes, very, very close to Senator Bongo because actually I was personally pushing for him to run for president in 2022 pero hindi rin nangyari yun eh. Tapos Vice President, hindi din.
Well, you were saying kanina that you would describe Sara as the presidential daughter to be aloof when it comes to those working with the president, and like you mentioned, that meeting that you were trying to pursue to talk between PDP and at that time Sara as potentially for the political plans in 2022, that meeting never happened. So would you say that, did you also observe a rift in the relationship between Senator Bongo and Sara back then?
Yeah, that will be the logical conclusion, because I'm just wondering when we announced that Bongo will run for vice president, she suddenly ran for vice president without informing the party. I mean, she has no obligation to inform PDP because she's not part of the PDP. But just the same, she's the presidential daughter at that time, and PDP is the administration party. So siguro it's just proper that we be informed somehow. So PDP left with no candidates, presidential and vice presidential, because she decided to run for vice president at that time. And Senator Bongo was very gracious not to go against the daughter of the boss that he is serving for a long time. So ganun yung nangyari. Kaya PDP was left on the sideline at that time.
Would you say that PDP would have had candidates if Sara was able to coordinate with PDP?
Well, I think so, definitely, because if Sara did not run for vice president, then it will be Bongo who will be running for vice president. At least we have a vice presidential candidate, hindi yung wala talaga. Dahil actually what happened, yung mga local candidates was left na wala talagang candidate on the national level at that time.
At that time, you were Secretary General for PDP.
Yes, I was Secretary General of PDP.
And why did you have difficulty completing a Senate slate?
Because alam naman na, yung politics is about having a presidential candidate. So at that time, when they saw that PDP-Laban is not building a presidential and vice presidential candidate, they will definitely look for a team. And at that time, it's team unity. We were able to build a formidable lineup. Kung ma-realize mo, sobra pa yung kandidato nila na senator that being endorsed, because there's a group of senators being endorsed by VP Sara at that time, and the senators being endorsed by President Bongbong Marcos at that time.
Would you say that if Sara did not join BBM in 2022, that she would have had a good chance of winning as president?
Well, if he ran for president, she being backed up by PRRD at that time. You know the popularity of PRRD, and we look at the numbers, that is transferable to whoever that President Duterte will endorse at the time. So medyo malaki yung chance. So if you recall, at that time, there was a tandem of Duterte being floated. And I think we ran a survey at that time, and it got 46%. So medyo may chance talaga. And we don't know. I think everything will change. And we don't even know if probably President Bongbong will talk to the administration at that time, and he will agree also to run for vice president. So, you know, President Bongbong is very amenable, and he tried to put things together and people together. Kaya nga team unity sila eh. Pero wala, iba yung naging direction ni VP Sara. So, now I can tell, parang everybody is waiting for Sara to decide at that time. So, ganun yung nangyari sa akin.
But what happened? How come the president at that time, President Duterte, was not able to convince Sara to discuss with you, with PDP, which was his political party?
Well, I remember President Duterte at that time saying na iba talaga si Inday, sabi niya. So sometimes ako dito, gusto niya doon. Ako doon, gusto niya dito. So there's probably a dynamics within the family that we don't know, but at least we can only second guess based on the actions and based on what's happening. So
is it
baka hindi.
True that former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo had something to do with President Sara's decision not to run, for Vice President Sara's decision not to run for president?
I'm not certain of that, if directly it's former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. But I know that there were talks at that time. They were talking. Sila yan eh, nag-usap sila dyan. So, hindi ko alam exactly what happened. But probably there is a strong influence. Because from what I'm seeing publicly, malaki yung influensya ni former President Jimeno kay Sara. If you recall, nung tinanggal as senior deputy speaker si former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, that's the time that Sara resigned from the party, and she said, I don't want to be involved in political toxicity, something like that. So may influensya. So hindi natin alam exactly what transpired among them when they're talking.
Well, some of the females that we also see with Vice President Sara is Senator Amy Marcos.
Amy, yes.
And some people are saying she was key to Sara joining BBM in the unit team. Would you have any knowledge if that's
also? Again, probably because I think it happened during the birthday celebration in Cebu of Congresswoman Yeda. So there was a big party there and doon sila pumunta. It was October in one of the subdivisions doon sa Cebu. And after that, there's already an announcement that Sara will be running for Vice President.
If she decided to run back then for president in 2022 against BBM, do you think Sara would have had a big chance to win?
So, of course, she will have a big chance because of PRRD. But we can never predict exactly that she will win because we know that BBM also have a strong support of the loyalists and it's a big group. I think they have a base vote of at least 15 million. That's an indication of the votes that was gathered by President Bongbong Marcos when he ran for Vice President in 2016. So yun yung base vote niya, 15 million. So hindi rin natin masabi kung talagang mananalo rin si Sara if it's Sara versus PBBM. Because we know that PBBM helped PRRD also to win the 2016 election. Because it's an indication that the loyalists went to support PRRD at that time because he made a promise that si former President Ferdinand Marcos will be buried sa libingan ng mga bayani.
Which is something he did fulfill.
Yes. He fulfilled the promise.
Back in 2022, one of the rumors we were also hearing was bong, meaning Bongo and BBM.
Yeah.
Did that really happen? Was that ever under consideration?
I will be very honest with you, Karen. Nangyari talaga yon. Meron talaga kaming push na ganun. That's why, if you recall, ang una nag-file ng candidacy si SBG, Senator Bongo, as President, Vice President niya si PRRD. Then he withdraw. Magba-Vice President siya. Because there were really talks na sana Bongbong Marcos and Senator Bongo. Pero hindi rin natuloy. So you know what happened, but hindi rin natuloy, di ba?
Hindi natuloy because it was Sara that suddenly ran.
And nag-withdraw si... And there was already... an agreement doon sa Cebu nga that President Bongbong will run with Sara Duterte. So kami sa PDP, we decided to support the team unity.
Well, Attorney Melvin, let's look back at your history. You previously worked with Secretary Mar Rojas. So people are curious, how did you end up knowing President Duterte?
Well, 2014, ito yung story, I will tell this story. 2014, me and former Speaker Bebot Alvarez, we were pushing for PRRD to run for president. 2014 pa lang. Actually, before yung hand sign na ganyan, ganun pa yan eh. So, paggawa kami ng mga t-shirt, aton to buy.
Even when you were working with Secretary Mar Rojas?
Hindi pa yun. Kasi yung after nun, I talked to Speaker Bebot. Sabi ko, hindi naman niya tatakbo tong si Mayor eh. Sama na muna ako rito. I'm being recruited to be part of the campaign of Mar Rojas. So I joined the campaign team of Mar Rojas. Yung mga friends ko, I cannot mention the name. I don't have permission to mention their names. Pero, so I joined them within the core. We're having meeting dyan sa EDSA. No? May isang, hindi pa yung dun sa Cubao. No? Meron dito sa EDSA kami na headquarters. So we're campaigning for Mar Rojas and helping him. Nung matapos na yung election, I got a call from my boss, Secretary Cusi, and my friend Bebot Alvarez to help them with the Duterte administration, and I gladly accepted it. But before that, I went to former Senator Mar to ask for permission if it's okay that I'll be joining the administration of President Duterte. And he said yes, and it's good that you will be there. At least you can help, and you can also somehow help me to bridge the gap if there's any. So that's what happened.
So up till the end, you helped with the campaign of,
yes, until election.
Of Mar Rojas, and then you ended up joining the administration.
Ito nga yung ano niya, no? So exactly, I will tell the story. Tumawag sa akin si Secretary Cusi, that was election day. Sabi niya sa akin, Melvin, O paano yan, talo na yung kandidato mo. Sabi ko, sinong kandidato? Sabi ko, because I campaign for local officials, panalo sila. Hindi, talo na si Rojas. Sabi niya, di ba Marka? Sabi gano'n. Sabi ko, yes sir, pero okay lang. Sabi niya, panalo siya, sama ka. Sabi gano'n. Pwede naman sir. Nung election, Rojas ako. Pero nung nanalo na, sama na ako, Duterte na ako. I said that in jest na nagbibiro ako. But the thing is, my point is, whoever wins the election, all of us has the obligation to protect whoever was elected because he has the mandate. So we don't protect the individual, we protect the mandate of whoever elected because I think that's the key to the success of any administration. So sumama ako sa kanila. And on the following day, I was appointed as the National Deputy Secretary General of PDP-Laban.
Okay. And your middle name is also Alvarez. Are you somehow related to former Speaker Bebot Alvarez?
Hindi naman. Pero napagkakamalan kami magkamag-anak kasi sabi medyo yung build down namin. But I know Bebot for decades already and Secretary Cusi. Sila talaga yung mga kasama ko even during the time of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo.
So why did you resign as Secretary General of PDP-Laban?
Well, I resigned from PDP-Laban only last year. October 23. I stayed even after the election. I tried to build the party. But I think yung una niyan kasi I wrote an article about confidential funds. So I think it doesn't sit well with some of the members of PDP and officers of PDP. But what I told them is, that is my personal and legal belief na confidential funds hindi talaga pwede sa mga civil agencies like the DepEd and the Office of the Vice President. Because in other jurisdictions in the United States, yung intelligence gathering and confidential funds is only given to those who have the duty to gather the critical information. So if the Office of the Vice President and the Office of the Department of Education needs information, you can coordinate with like NICA or the intelligence group of PNP and the ISAP of the EFP. So, dapat ganun siguro.
Attorney Melvin, the Office of the President also had a large confidential fund last year. And for this year's budget hearing, they're also proposing, I think, even larger than the Office of the Vice President in terms of the amount of confidential funds. Would you say that the Office of the President has a right to confidential funds?
Yes, for the very obvious reason that he's the commander-in-chief. So he's the one in charge of our military and even the police. So kailangan talaga yan. I think that is needed.
We had here before Congresswoman Franz Castro who said that for them, for the Makabayan bloc, their position is consistent, that they think that the confidential funds should be removed in all offices, in all departments as well, because there's no transparency. It's really difficult to monitor how it's used. Don't you agree with that statement?
Well, for civil agencies, I agree na wala. But like DND, Office of the President, the military, the police, National Bureau of Investigation, those are all needed. Those funds are needed to do their mandate, to protect the mandate. And of course, we have security threats, especially now that we have in the era of cyber era, so yung cyber security, those are all needed. So it should be managed properly and used properly. There are checks and balances. The Congress and the oversight function, and that's precisely why the Congress is asking the Office of the Vice President, how did you use the confidential funds? So ando dun yun may check and balance naman yan
On that note, your criticism of the confidential funds in the Office of the Vice President also was part of your article calling Vice President Sara a bratinella in your column. So can you explain to us why you called her a bratinella? But before you answer that question, Attorney Melvin, we'll take a short break. At the Forefront, we'll be right back.
OpenAI has launched a new series of bots built to answer really tough questions. The AI models are designed to spend more time processing problems before spitting out an answer. First reported by Reuters, the new products are capable of reasoning through complex tasks. OpenAI says that makes them better able to solve challenging problems in science, coding and math. Known within the firm as Strawberry, they've officially been branded as O1 and O1 Mini. The O1 version will be available in ChatGPT from Thursday. In a blog post, the firm said the new model scored 83% on the qualifying exam for the International Mathematics Olympiad. That compares with just 13% for a previous model. The new bot also exceeded human PhD-level accuracy on some scientific tests. An OpenAI researcher said the system was built on so-called chain-of-thought reasoning, which breaks complex problems down into small steps. The models have refined their abilities through training and learning from their mistakes.
Weekdays on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. BNC, the Billionario News Channel. Always on top.
Welcome back at the forefront. Attorney Melvin, you wrote in your column that Vice President Sara is a bratinella. Why did you say that?
Well, yung bratinella kasi, let me explain. Yung bratinella, alam na natin that's a millennial term na pagka yung medyo may pagka-rebel ka or you want your na everything that will happen your way. Kung hindi, you will have tantrums or magagalit ka, makipag-away ka. So that's exactly what's happening. When she is being asked to explain how do you use confidential, no, I don't want to answer. That's not related to the story. And she will start doing the name calling pagka hindi nangyari. Because she had her way during the 6 years term of his father. Yung gusto niya, it's really happening. Can you imagine? I mentioned earlier, she was able to maneuver to replace former Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez kung sino yung pinili niya. She was the one. She was really the one who's been calling the congressman that we have to replace it. Kaya nga nung napalitan si Bebot noon, si PRRD had a statement, ingat kayo sa babae na yan, talagang kaya niya magpapalit ng speaker. Kahit sa Davao niya inoperate yan. Ganon. Yun. So that's exactly the behavior of somebody na pagka hindi mo makuha yung gusto mo, may gagawin ka palagi. Imagine nung hindi niya, gusto niyang palitan din si Speaker Romualdez. Nung hindi nangyari yon at si Speaker Romualdez, good thing he act immediately because for him, yung mga kudita sa Congress, it always should be a nip on the bud. Ayun ang term na ginagamit ni Speaker. At nung pinalitan, tinanggal sa pagka-senior deputy speaker si former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, nag-resign sa partido. Tapos ngayon, iba na yung sinasabi niya. Before, he was saying na ito yung unity, I'm campaigning, magkaibigan kami. Pero iba na ngayon. Sinasabi na niya ngayon, may issue ng pulburon. Mga ganyan ba? So, hindi maganda. So, that's what I'm saying. We don't protect a specific person. We protect the mandate. She enrolled to be the vice president of President Bongbong Marcos. And she knows very well that the term is 6 years. So dapat the entire 6 years, tumulong ka. And if you cannot accept it, it's okay probably to criticize, but you resort to name calling or coming out with fake videos just to accuse the president na involved siya sa illegal acts of the doing drugs. I think that is something that's not sit well to anybody. So that is exactly the actions of somebody who is a bratinella in the millennial times.
Well, you said earlier that there were coup attempts before to replace the current speaker, Speaker Martin Romualdez. And shortly after that, former President Arroyo, Congresswoman Gloria Arroyo, was replaced as senior deputy speaker. Yes. Was former PGMA, Gloria Arroyo, also part of that coup attempt?
Well, ang sinasabi naman ni former President Gloria Arroyo, wala, sabi niya. But I think si Speaker Romualdez have seen a lot in Congress already and he knows what's really happening. So I think I respect his wisdom on that. Actually, that's a perfect time to share what happened during the Duterte administration. In 2019, when they are selecting the Speaker of the House, it was really Speaker Martin Romualdez who has the numbers. I know that. I was the section of PDP-Laban at that time. And I've been talking to a lot of congressmen at that time na gusto nila si Speaker Martin Romualdez to be the Speaker at that time in 2019. But when they called upon sa Malacanang, because if you recall, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, and Congressman Lord Alan Velasco, there was also gunning for the speakership. So, we know naman, everybody knows that.
Term sharing.
Yes, you know naman that Lord Alan is kay Sara, di ba? And then si Senator Alan Peter, sa grupo naman nila Senator Bongo and E.S. Bingbong. So, tinawag sa Malacanang, usap. And immediately sinabi, si Martin Romualdez will be the majority floor leader. And then kayong dalawa mag-term sharing. You remember the term, Magellan, di ba? 1521. And at that time pa lang, makita mo na yung character of Speaker Romualdez that he followed. He respected the mandate because we all very know that Speaker of the House being elected, but the President of the Republic has the great influence over the choice of who will be the Speaker. But doon mo makita, at that time nga, Speaker Romualdez, okay, I'll be majority floor leader. And pinagbigyan parehas because Lord Alan will be Sara and dito naman sa kabila will be the group of SBG. So, that's what I'm saying.
But as lawyers, Attorney Melvin, there should have been a separation of powers where the executive, the president, should be completely independent from the legislative, and the legislative likewise is independent from the president so that there's checks and balances. But if it's negotiated in this way, and then right now we have an administration where the Speaker of the House is the cousin of the president, do you think it's compromised, having that checks and balances?
Well, it might appear to be compromise, but it will also depend on the leadership. Kasi tingnan mo naman, ngayon naman, as I can see it, there's really independence, there's check and balance still. Of course, the agenda of the president is being pushed by the House through the Speaker, but just the same, if there are issues that should be addressed, it's being deliberated at the floor, at the plenary. Hindi naman siguro lahat. You have 311 congressmen and congresswomen. I don't think everybody will just keep quiet. Lalo na there's Macapagal Black there. So that is really the dynamics. But politically, nakikita kasi natin that the president has the say because he's a party mate. If you recall, during our time, first time in the history, all the top three positions, Senate President, Speaker of the House, and the President of the Republic, PDP-Laban lahat. But at that time, andun pa rin naman yung check and balance, nangyayari pa rin. So, it will go through the process. And in relation to that, tingnan mo yung sinasabi na it's only Speaker Romualdez and the Chairman of Appropriation is Saldico. Sa budget, sila lang nagtutulungan. I think they're the one running it. But it goes through the process of paggawa ng budget from the executive, submit the NEP, then pagtapos na approve yan, ang maggasta na yan is the agencies and the department concerned. So, it's not that easy na sabihin mo isa o dalawang tao lang yung mag-control.
That's what Vice President Sara said.
That is her claim,
There are two people controlling the budget, Speaker Martin and the head of the appropriations, Zaldico. And in your article, you also said, tell the people something that they don't know. So you kind of acknowledge that they somehow control the budget?
Somehow, but of course, it goes through the process. Di ba? Mag-election pa rin. Tsaka ako ngayon, the way I see it, the speaker, kung meron mang budget that is being allocated for every district, lahat nakakatanggap eh. I know it personally, nakikita ko. And I've been talking to congressmen and congresswomen, they never had it good na talaga nakakadala sila ng proyekto sa mga distrito nila.
Regardless if you're opposition.
Yes, even Makabayan.
Your wife is a congresswoman. She's with what party right now?
She's with Lakas. Actually, speaking of that, that's also one of the reasons why I left PDP because I don't want to have a conflict of interest when it comes to that. Anyway, yung asawa ko naman yung nasa politika, it's not me. So, kaya umalis na rin ako doon sa Lakas.
So she's with Lakas, which is the party of the Speaker.
Yeah.
And in terms of just right now, how they're distributing the budget, you said that everyone gets an equal share.
Yes.
How is there, for example, fairness? So this is something that some people have criticized where when it comes to the confidential funds, the Office of the Vice President was grilled about it, but last year, the same level of scrutiny was not applied. Whereas when it came to the confidential funds of the Office of the President, some members of Congress moved to observe what they call parliamentary courtesy. Do you think that's also fair in terms of how they treat allies and also what's perceived to be opposition?
Well, if we talk about confidential fund, that's a different story. Tapos meron din naman yung mga social fund, no? So I've reviewed the budget of OBP that's being applied. So she's been complaining that she's being asked for something that's already been spent. But precisely the reason why the Congress can ask those questions. Remember, in political law, we have this doctrine that the power of Congress is plenary in nature. When you say plenary, you can ask anything and everything under the sun. And the duty of the resource person is to provide answers to the question being thrown by the members of the House of Representatives because that is their duty to ask questions. Pero ang problema nito, ayaw niyang sumagot dahil sabi nga hindi naman kasi connected yan. That is connected because we are talking about public accountability and how you spend your budget. That is the spending habit. If I'm sitting there, I can even ask, paano mo ba ginagastos yung baon mo nung bata ka? Because we're talking about the spending habits, your fiscal responsibility. How do you manage your funds? So hindi pwedeng hindi related. So yung sinasabi na sa iba hindi. That is because baka wala silang problema. Una-una, baka wala silang confidential funds. Pangalawa, baka naman hindi nila ginastos ng 11 days yung confidential funds nila. And we need answers, di ba? Sasabihin niya, may COA report. Precisely that is the job of Congress. Before you approve a budget, hindi niya pati pwedeng sabihin na walang purpose ng legislation. Don't you remember that the appropriation is a law? Di ba, nagiging
a law that's passed, so General Appropriations
Act. There is a law being deliberated na maging batas siya for 2025.
But Attorney Melvin, before, you mentioned in your article as well that President Duterte, when he was still mayor, was receiving less confidential funds when Sara was mayor of Davao.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct because at the time that the president is the mayor, ang confidential fund niya sa mayor is 150 million. But during the pandemic, si Mayor Sara is averaging 400 to 450 million a year. So mukhang meron siyang penchant for confidential funds eh. So kaya siguro nagtatanong ng ganun yung mga miyembro ng Kongreso.
Pagka ba mayor, is there no way to also ask them how they're spending their confidential funds? And do you agree that also mayors, local executives should have confidential funds?
Well, probably pwede, pero hindi naman siguro ganun kalaki. Before I served as the general manager of the Manila International Airport Authority, meron din kaming confidential funds. We have confidential funds na mga around 1.5 million a month. Pero we're reporting it. May reporting pa rin, chinecheck pa rin ng COA. Pero kagaya nun, vitalization yan, so dumadaan dyan yung mga tao. So kailangan ko ng confidential funds. Ganon din siguro sa Davao or sa any city because there are probably you want to promote peace and order, you want to go after drug lords or criminal activities. So kailangan, di ba? The same way na kailangan ng presidente. Kasi we have threats in and out of the country. So it's really on the manner of how we will use the confidential funds. And that is precisely the reason why questions like that is being thrown to VP Sara na kailangan niyang sagutin.
And now there's also this Quadcom hearings in Congress. Yeah. Where do you see this going? Right now, it's all unfolding when it comes to Pogos, but they're supposed to also investigate the drug trade and the war on drugs.
Yeah.
But you wrote an interesting article about the Pogos being linked to the illegal drug trade. Can you explain why they might be linked?
Yes, I remember that article na sabi ko nga that is probably the biggest achievement of President Bongbong Marcos when it comes to drug war. Because when he decided to stop Pogo, a lot of criminal activities is happening and related to Pogo. Probably in the area where there is Pogo. Mayroong prostitution, may human trafficking, may drug trade. And yung mga operator ng Pogo, have been linked in the golden triangles that we call. Ito yung area na to sa South Asia, yung yung Cambodia, Thailand na area na yan, nandun yung mga illegal activities. And some personalities, galing dyan link dyan So, kaya ko sinabi na, yung Pogo, nung huminto, somehow you also stop the drug trade. There's so much money that you can suspect that probably it's not only a gambling money, but the money being washed and being infused galing sa drug trade.
So Pogo also is a platform for money laundering,
Yes.
meaning they get to funnel the
Correct.
money there that's being earned from the drug
Correct.
trade.
Correct.
And at the time, when you were cabinet secretary for President Duterte, this was when Pogos were still legal. Did you not, as the administration, did not anticipate that there's a possible link or that there might be all of these evils that come from the Pogo industry?
Well, for me personally, I'm already worried about it because I'm not also personally, I'm not for legalization of the Pogo operation. It infuses a lot of money, but at what price? So, ngayon, lumabas na nga, may human trafficking, then somehow in all, allowed illegal activities, may torturing, may mga namamatay na hindi natin alam. So, tama lang na hininto na ni President Bongbong Marcos. But yung question mo nga kung hindi natin na-anticipate, probably not. Kasi tinuloy natin because if we know that it will bring so much evil, baka dapat hindi na natin ginawa yan. So sipin mo, pati nga yung si former spokesperson natin, secretary, involved na rin doon sa Pogo. Yeah. So I don't know. I was surprised na may mga officers at that time namin na may mga kinalaman doon sa Pogo.
Did you get to interact with former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque back then during the administration?
Hindi, nakakausap ko siya but we're not talking about, I don't have any idea na involved pala siya dyan sa Pogo. Ngayon ko na lang din nakita.
Do you think that at some level, President Duterte or any of the Duterte family members benefited from the Pogo industry?
Well, I cannot assume, I cannot make an assumption to that, but of course, it should be supported by pieces of evidence before we can draw that conclusion. Pero siyempre, maraming mag-iisip na by legalizing it, somehow there's benefit also because of what's happening right now. And there's so much money involved with the Pogo operation.
But Michael Yang also is a name that keeps cropping up in these investigations. Did you ever get to interact with him under President Duterte's administration?
No, I don't know him personally. I'm just hearing his name, that he's this influence, his relationship like that. And I think the brother was arrested recently. So he was very popular. Narinig mo yung name, but hindi ko siya kilala personally.
Well, as a lawyer, do you think that there should be some type of legislation? Because you've seen both sides. You were also part of the administration. You've been in government before. And now, with what you've been seeing, what types of legislation do you think would be important in order to address, especially if there's a potential link really with Pogos and the illegal drug trade?
Well, there should be strong penalties when anybody will be involved in that. And I think that is the direction of the Quadcom. Not, hindi naman siguro parang iniisip lang ng iba na gusto lang na may gusto lang silang banatan doon sa previous administration. But I think the direction should be to come out with legislation that will be enshrined and protect the future generation. And probably, there should be a balance na kung may Pogo man, di ba? Or ako siguro totally dapat wala na lang yan. Those who will attempt to bring Pogo illegally should be met with strong penalties so that we will discourage illegal activities like that.
Some people still see Vice President Sara as the strong contender for the 2028 presidential elections. If she decides to run, who do you think would be a strong contender against her? But before you answer that question, we'll have to take a short break. At the forefront, we'll be right back.
It has no authorization.
We hope and pray that it will not rise.
Thanks for having me here.
Our frustrated
By myself, basically.
We always say that.
It depends.
A well-concerted effort.
Perhaps I can reiterate.
My greatest beefsteak. Iba na iba pala yun.
Rise and shine, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Paolo Del Rosario. Get ready because we prepared a lot of great content for you to make the day even better.
And hello, I'm Moni Tuzon, bringing you a wave of positivity and a splash of happiness.
I'm Ann Asis Carrillo. Let's dive into some serious fun, and more fun.
Of course, we hope you found some inspiration.
And good vibes. Every day is
a beautiful day!
On BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Welcome back at the forefront. And before the break, Attorney Melvin, we were talking about the 2028 presidential elections. Sabi mo, aga pa.
Ang aga naman 2025 muna eh.
But you know, people really love to talk about politics and that much ahead. So, if Vice President Sara runs for president in 2028, who do you think would be a strong contender against her?
Before I answer that, let me tell you this. That is always the problem of our country. We are so much into political situation. Can you just imagine, ang election pa lang 2025, people are already talking about 2028. And also, right after the 2022 election, everybody was saying si Sara na yung next president. Si Rapi Tulfo, contender, something like that, di ba? So I think that's really the problem. And I will go back to what I said earlier na dapat yung mandate, we always honor it. We protect it so that we have a successful administration. And the success of every administration is also the success of the nation. But anyway, since you're asking that question, that who will be the strong contenders, there are a lot of names. And you'll never know what will happen the next 3 years. Tingnan mo, of course, the Tulfos are there. Sino mo naman yung survey? Mga lumalabas sa survey, 1 and 2. Erwin and Ben Tulfo,
for
diba?
Senate, for 2025.
Kahapon yata siya yung guest mo
Yes,
dito, di ba? Then, siyempre, Rapi Tulfo pa. Then, of course, they're saying na kaya ganun dahil si Speaker Martin is pushing to run for president, di ba? Then, meron pa, madaming loyal. But there are names, and doon naman yan eh. Doon na yung manggagaling yan. Of course, we have local, like Benji Magalong. Sinasabi rin nila, di ba? But of course, now, he rise to Senate presidency. And I think si Chis Escudero will be a strong and a good candidate for presidency as well. Para sa akin, ha? Kasi alam naman natin, brilliant yan. Tapos now, he's a Senate president. It's how he will manage it. And all the senators, all the national figures, and those who are popular, alam natin. Kasi yung election natin dito, whoever the popular, lamang na eh. Because before you can convert the votes, di ba, into votes, kailangan kilala ka nila. Nobody will vote. Eh. Lahat naman yan, 100% ng popularity niyan sa Pilipinas. Eh. So anybody. And we cannot say na, kaya ginagawa to because inupakan si VP Sara dahil gusto niya magpresidente. Then if that is the case, they're the one already making a declaration that she will really run for 2028. And now we know na yung reason pala, kaya ganun yung behavior mo, is because you are gearing for presidency. And that's why you put up 127 satellite offices of the OVP dahil you're already preparing the grounds para sa presidency.
By that, do you see that the meeting with Vice President Leni Robredo was just a courtesy visit, or do you think it had something to do with politics?
Well, si former Kong Barry Gutierrez, sabi nila, 1 oras ng meeting. I don't think na personal lang kasi 1 oras kayo meeting. Ano naman ang personal relationship nyo? She didn't even, Sara, if you recall, she didn't even have the time to yung turnover nila. Hindi ba? Hindi man siya na nagkita nga eh. So siguro she's catching up. And I think it's a good thing that she met with the former Vice President. And probably she can ask, para 400 million lang yung budget mo nun, but you were also working as the Vice President. Tuloy-tuloy yung mga projects mo. At saka siguro, that's also the time na, pasensya na noon, kalaban kita eh. But I need allies now. Ano bang masasabi mo? Di ba? So marami sila siguro pinag-usapan that we don't know, di ba?
Well, back in 2022, there were also some people that were pushing for what they called Rosa, Robredo, Sara.
Sara, that's right.
So do you think that if they joined forces, Vice President Sara and Vice President Lenny, that they would be a strong force to contend with?
Parang mahirap eh. Pero yung Rosa, totoo yan, because I will not name names, but there are cabinet members who, at that time, that Rosa.
Na cabinet members ni
PDP
President
members,
Duterte.
na mga Rosa noon, no? So, meron yan noon. So, ayoko na lang banggitin kung sino-sino yung mga yan. Pero, yung tanong mo, if there will be a strong force, medyo tingin ko medyo mahirap na, no? Because the base vote of Lenny, or former Vice President Lenny, the likes of Dilima, I think Dilima will join force, Trillanes, diba? So medyo mahirap yata na pagsabi. But anything can happen in politics. Hindi natin nasabi na nakataga sa bato yan, pero anything can happen.
Well, as a political strategist, I would consider you being the Secretary General of a political party before. Who excites you the most in terms of just the idea of them running for president in 2028?
Well, we really have to look at the toolbox, no? They become a brand name, eh. So, di ba, pag may nanggulo sa'yo, papatulpo kita. So, ganun na yung reputation nila. When you say tulpo, it's something related to something that is good, something that is doing the correction. Of course, they've been saying Speaker Martin Romualdez. I think he will also be a formidable candidate because...
You mean Speaker Martin Romualdez?
Yeah, Speaker Martin Romualdez. Because he done well to his constituent. He knew his constituent, the members of the House of Representatives. I'm telling you, they never had this good. So he will have leaders in every district. If not all, majority of that. And siguro what he needs lang is to yung relationship with the masses, diba? Yun yung laging napupuna. But he's there, so he can be considered. Of course, I mentioned, that's my personal belief lang. I mentioned Chis Escudero because dati tumakbo namang Vice President. He got a good number. And we don't know who else. Pero I'm sure whoever will be endorsed by the administration will always be a strong candidate. Ganun naman eh. That is always the rule. Then opposition, they always have to find a way to unite to go against the administration.
Well, in your family unit, your wife is in politics. She's a congresswoman. Do you also give her political advice? Did you object when she was joining the political party of Speaker Martin in Lakas?
Masunurin ako sa asawa ko, Atty. Karen. Eh. No, I mean, Anne is doing well. I think yung expectation ko exceeded sa kanya, she exceeded it because she's doing very well sa district. Siya na yung mas kilala kaysa sa amin. So, if she will seek my advice, I will gladly give my advice. But I know that she's doing it and she's in the right direction. When she joined Lakas, I respected it. In fact, I decided to be on the sideline and resign from PDP-Laban because I supported her. Ang biro ko nga nun, sabi ko nun kay Secretary Cusi, sir, alam mo, my loyalty to the party ends when my loyalty to my wife begins. Eh. So, alis na lang muna ako sa PDP-Laban.
Now I know who's the real boss in your family. Okay, so...
Ganon din sa bahay niyo, I'm sure.
Don't talk to my husband. But, okay, so, like you said, Filipinos love to look ahead. In 2028, do you think that Vice President Sara is ready to become president in 2028? Or what would you say is still missing in terms of her political maturity?
A lot of maturity, probably. But I think if she will be behaving this way, nakatakot eh. I don't think... we need a president, we need the leader who will unite, who will really unite, and who will be remembered to be caring. Alam mo, I think the greatest asset of Bongbong Marcos, he will be remembered as the compassionate president. Eh. He's really kind. Eh. Despite of all the criticism and all. And I know for a fact because I've been talking to members of his cabinet as well. Marami na yung nagagalit. Early on pa, that Sara is doing this to you, ganyan, ganon. But he's not reacting. He's saying that, hindi, ayan nyo, kasama natin, magbabago pa rin yan. So, in your question, if you think Sara will be ready to be a president, actually, ako personally, I will be scared if she will be the president. Baka maraming magaya kay Senator De Lima, no? So, probably kailangan niya siguro talaga to understand how the government function, the dichotomy also, and learn to respect the process. Just like what's happening in Congress, you have to respect it. Ang dami nating pinagdaanan dyan nung time na tayo naging presidente. But we respect the process.
Thank you so much, Attorney Melvin Matibag. We really learned a lot from you today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen.
While political stakeholders have their differing views of Vice President Sara, most of them still view her as a likely candidate for the presidency in 2028. Whether her political stock is still worth 32 million votes in 2028 will depend on what she can prove as a public servant and how she will politically mature moving forward. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again tomorrow for meaningful conversations that would help you form an objective personal opinion. This is Atty. Karen Jimeno. Thank you for spending your hour with us.
This is Pinky Webb, and it's a great opportunity.
Ang inyong lingkod si Corina Sanchez Rojas.
Corina Sanchez.
As they uphold their mission
is to be proud
Dalawang
of what we
mamamahayag
do
na
in our
subok
lives.
sa tapang at talino.
To talk with all of you. Maraming salamat.
Pagsasamahin ng isa. Agenda. Mondays to Fridays, 6 p.m. Only on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
When I walk out tonight, there'll be kids with posters to be signed. It doesn't haunt me. I love it. I love that I was a part of that cult. It doesn't hurt when they're young, especially, to stop and sign somebody's poster.
Tonight in Los Angeles, the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts and Sciences will be announcing 3 honorary Oscars, and one of them is for James Earl Jones!
I knew my words, and then out from the wings steps Ben Kingsley, and he hands me an Oscar. Now, frankly, what the heck else would you call that but an actor's wet dream?
FBI is investigating what it says is another attempt to kill Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump.
Active Mpox cases here in the country now at 15. But the health department tells the public, don't be alarmed. Content creator engaged in a friendly sparring bout with Pacquiao. It was going well until Pacquiao punched him in his stomach and knocked him down.
May Rodriguez, newsfeed at noon on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
In fact, they are really sporty because they are cattle herders, and their main job was to avoid being kicked with really heavy tusk and legs. And so they are really, really fast. They're really, really agile, and it's a myth that they cannot run fast. So they are really, really sporty. But the only minor they have that they shed a lot. So it's like a really, really, my home is just filled with corgi.